Hi everyone, welcome to Poetry, Politics and Protest. Thank you for sticking around for the listening session. Before we begin, I'd like to see all of your faces. Can you all please switch on your camera if that's okay on your end? Hi Devansh, hi Sanji. I'd love to see all of your faces because this is going to be an incredibly interactive session where we're going to be discussing poetry, analyzing poetry, sharing our thoughts about politics. So for all of these things, I want to see your faces, see your expressions. So all of you, if it's okay, please switch on your camera. Okay. Cool. So I'm just going to share my screen as you all switch on your camera, right? And okay. So hi everyone, welcome to Poetry, Politics, Protest. Before we begin with anything, before I tell you what we're going to do for these past 2 hours, how we're going to discuss poetry, what we're going to do, what is protest, what is politics. Before we get into any of the actual matter, I want all of us to just process what is on our screen and just think about it. So I know you all can read for yourself, but I'm also going to be reading it out loud. All right. So this is a random anonymous post that I found on Pinterest. So throughout this workshop, we're going to be looking at a lot of quotes, a lot of phrases, a lot of sayings, and we're going to be proceeding through that. Okay, so you all can read for yourself, but I'll just read it out loud as well. So an anonymous account asks, in your honest opinion, what does it mean to be human? And another random account answers, in the dark times, will there also be singing? Yes, there will be singing about the dark times. So that's exactly what we want to do here today, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit about politics. We're going to be talking about the world around us. We're going to be talking about social injustices, everything that's going wrong. We're living in dark times, right? Looking at the socio-economic, political climate of the world around us. Yes, these are definitely dark times. But through poetry, through art, we are going to be singing about the dark times. So I just want this to be food for thought. Keep this with yourself as we proceed further, okay? So let's proceed further, right? So, hi everyone, welcome to Poetry, Politics, and Protest. I've said this thrice now, but let's just say it one more time. Thank you so much for registering. We got registrations from all over the world, from Afghanistan, from Cameroon, from US, France, and India, of course. So, today, what we're going to be doing essentially is that we're going to be looking at the intersectionality of art and politics. How can we talk about the world around us using poetry? So some of you may be experienced poets, some of you may be beginners. We have people from all around the world, different levels. That doesn't matter. All of us care about the world around us. That's one common point we have. So we are going to be exploring how we can write poetry, how we can engage with politics using poetry, and how we can use our poetry to actually create change, be it via publications, be it via, getting involved in campaigns at the grassroots level. So stick around till the end of the workshop to figure out opportunities for publication, to get opportunities to be involved at the Teenage Lens. So just a little bit of a sneak peek, we're going to be collecting all the poetry that you all write through this workshop, because we're going to be having like 2 writing exercises where you will be writing your own poetry. So we're going to be collecting that poetry and putting it up and as a collection of poems on our website. Besides this, we're also offering internship positions. So you can be a creative writing intern at the Teenage Lens if we think that your poetry and your interaction was truly amazing. So a little bit about the Teenage Lens. We are an organization that aims to empower young people in politics and social issues using art and research. So this is our first ever live event. So thank you so much for tuning in. We love the response and we hope you learn something from this entire workshop. All right. So let's proceed further, right? So, I'm going to be blabbering on for like 2 hours. So I think it's important you know a little bit about who is talking to you, right? So, hi everyone, I'm Srina. I'm the founder CEO of the Teenage Lens. So, I'm a high school student. I'm based in New Delhi, India. And I'm extremely, extremely passionate about civic engagement, political participation, and youth empowerment. So, my poetry has been published in several international magazines, including the Blue Marble Review, Cathartic Literary Magazine, Ice Lolly Review, amongst others. So I think I can definitely, give you some guidance on how you can get published, how you can get your work out there. So in the future, I aim to pursue a career in public policy or law or any social sciences related field. But I do want to continue poetry as a hobby at the side, maybe not as a full-fledged career, but definitely something I pursue on the side, right? let's move further. This program was not just done by me. We have a lot of team members who put in a lot of effort into bringing this to life, right? So I'm just gonna very quickly, ask my executive team to just introduce themselves, any thoughts that they might have before we begin with the actual discussion, right? So Sanchi is our managing director. Sanchi, are you here with us? Do you want to say hi really quickly? Sanchi? Okay, we'll proceed further. Swarnadeep is our head of PR and social media. Swarnadeep, do you want to say hi? Do we not have Swarnadeep with us? Okay, that's odd. But basically, Sanchi helped a lot in, getting everyone on board. Are you all able to unmute? Is that a problem? Can anyone just acknowledge, say hi or anything? I just want to.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay,
We
cool.
can unmute.
Okay, great. That's great.
Serena here, I guess everyone's able to unmute. If there's any problem, please write a message to the co-hosts. They'll be looking after your responses.
Yeah. Swarnadeep, do you want to introduce yourself? Swarnadeep? Okay, we'll just move on, right? So Swarnadeep is our head of PR. He helped a lot in the PR strategy of getting more people to sign up. Sanchi is our managing director who helped a lot in just getting this to life, figuring out strategies to engage people, etc. And then Satvik is our head of graphic design, who is not here with us, unfortunately, but he helped a lot in all the graphic design elements for our social media, etc. So that was great, along with Swinzel as well, who is not here with us, but she also helped out a lot. So Satvik and Swarnadeep and Sanchi, do you want to say something right now, or should I move further?
I would just like to commend everyone who are here, and I would like to make a promise to everyone who are here today that this workshop, if it's your first, and this is going to be a very important position of yours in the field of art, in the field of artivism that we follow as the Teenage Lens. You guys are extremely fortunate to have a good coordinator, a perfect coordinator, as Serena Bose here. She's a very dedicated and, may I say, very learned personality when it comes to the field of art as well as poetry. And I hope everyone looks forward to it. Thank you.
Sanchi, do you want to say something?
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Sanchi Goyal. I welcome you all to this awesome workshop which Teenage Lens is holding, as Sunay is heading it.
Okay, cool. I think Sanchi has some problems with her network, so I'm not able to hear her, but Sanchi only has nice words to say for all of you. So thank you so much for joining. Okay, now let's move on. I'm sure you all are bored. So again, just one last slide before
I hope you all really enjoy it.
Okay. Okay, Sanji, thank you so much. All right, let's move further, right? So a few ground rules, right, before we proceed. Again, I know you all are waiting to get into actual poetry, but again, these are very customary. So I want everybody to turn on their camera, because let me tell you, we're going to be discussing poetry. We're going to be we're going to be sharing our own poetry. So for that, it's extremely important that we can anyone unmute the people who are unmuted right now? Okay, cool. Yeah. So I want everyone to switch on their camera. Okay, I'm waiting. 1 minute. Everyone, please switch on your camera. Everybody. Anya, Tejasvi, Vishak, Neha, Marwa, Ankita, everyone. Okay. Okay, I see some of you, which is great. The second rule is that we're going to be having a lot of discussion. As I said, we're going to be talking. Interaction is a core element, an integral part of what we're going to be doing for these 2 hours. But in order to maintain some civility, some decorum, I will require all of you to use the raise hand feature to ask and to answer questions. Okay. So please use the raise hand feature. I know you all want to talk a lot, and I would really love for you to interact. But just to respect everyone's opinion, respect everyone's space, use the raise hand feature. And third is more of a reminder than like a rule. This is a safe space. We are going to be discussing politics. We are going to be discussing certain sensitive issues that may be a little controversial. But I encourage you all to share your thoughts, as long as they're not hateful, racist, homophobic. We don't want to get into that. But I want you all to be free in expressing your thoughts. And I want everybody to accept other people's thoughts with an open mind, because again, we're all from different parts of the world. We all have different opinions, but we're all here together. So we need to hear everyone out. Okay. So does anyone have any questions before we move on? You can raise your hand. Okay, cool. So we're going to be using the chat feature in a limited. Okay. Aman, do you want to say something?
First of all, I'm really happy to hear. This is Aman Shakawari from Afghanistan, a student of Kabul University of Public Policy and Administration, and also a student at AUF, American University of Afghanistan. So my question is that, what's the link between poetry and politics there? Can you clear for us?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, I feel like talking about politics, there are very conventional ways to talk about it. We're going to get into more at the end of the session about how you can incorporate poetry in speech writing. We're going to analyze US presidents who have used poetry in their speeches to talk about politics and how that message has become incredibly clear. With poetry, the thing is that you can really drive your message across and make it impactful and make it stay with the people, right? So poetry is something that, it's not going to change laws overnight. It's not going to make the world a better place with just a snap of a finger. That's not what we're going to do. I know I don't want to raise your hopes up high, but poetry is just another medium to talk about things and enhance the process of activism, right? So we're going to get into this more in depth in the future, but I hope that answers your question for now. Okay, so I'm just quickly going to make one of my teammates co-host before we move further. Okay, let's go. So let's look at today's agenda. All right. So basically, we're going to divide today's meeting in theory. Theory is essentially where I'm going to be talking a little bit about poetry. I'm going to be talking about the elements of poetry, what is poetry, that kind of stuff. And then we're going to have some practical, where I want you all to actually write some of your own poetry. And that's the more interesting part. So I want you all to engage very actively in that part. So we're going to have 2 practical sessions, 2 writing exercises. And at the end of the workshop, I want you all to just, keep aside whatever you wrote, because we're going to be collecting the submissions for whatever you wrote in the workshop and hopefully compiling it into a collection of poems, which we can put up on our website later on. So don't just, throw away your poem after writing it. We're going to use that later on. Okay. So let's look at an agenda, right? So first, we're going to look at the modified definitions of political poetry. We're going to define all the words we're going to be dealing with. That's really important, because the definition we use is the one we're going to take forward and write our poetry, right? Then we're going to analyze some political poetry. We cannot write political poetry without having read some political poetry. Third, we're going to write our own political poetry after having read some. And fourth, we're going to look at the protest element of today, right? We're going to look at how we can create change, how we can use poetry in publications, how we can use poetry at campaigns at the grassroots level, and how we can actually create change through poetry. Okay? So before we move further, another quote thrown at you, which I really want you to think about, because this is an extremely, extremely important part of what we're going to be doing today. So keep this at the back of your mind as we move further. So I'll read it out loud. This is said by Marvin McCool. So he says, "In order for me to write poetry that isn't political, I must listen to the birds. And in order to hear the birds, the warplanes must be silent." So I want to reiterate, we are going to be dealing with sensitive issues. We're going to be dealing about injustices, about gender, about war, about all the bad things that are happening across the world. And we're not doing that because it's fun. Writing political poetry is never fun. It's never an activity you do for fun, you write for leisure. That's not something you do, not at all. We're writing it because we're compelled to write about it, because it is such a pressing issue that we cannot breathe if we don't write it out loud. He needs to, in order to write poetry that is about ordinary issues, the warplanes need to be silent. And in today's day and age, they are not silent. That's the sad truth. So please keep this in mind as we move further. Okay. Now, I have one question for you all. Okay. This again is extremely, extremely important. So I want to dedicate some time to just answering this question and hearing everybody out. Okay. Because we're going to be defining politics. And based on our definition of politics, we're going to be writing political poetry. So I want everybody to raise their hand. You can have a 1-word answer, you can have a 2-line answer, whatever you want to say, but I want to hear you. What do you think politics is? What does politics mean to you? We're all from different countries, from different cities. We have different definitions of politics. So I want to hear everyone out. I'm going to dedicate some time to this. So please raise your hand. I really want to hear you. Aman, go ahead.
Okay, the politics definition is that the way of controlling the power is politics.
Okay, perfect. Definitely, that's true. Anyone has a different definition? Because there are different definitions, although you might think otherwise. Anyone has a different opinion from Aman? Ankita, go ahead.
Yeah, so since we live in groups, politics is a way to reach collective decisions about how to use our resources for
Definitely.
the good.
Agreed. Collective decisions. Okay. Anyone else with a different opinion? Guys, please feel free to share. No one is judging. There are many answers to this question. That's why I've asked it. I see Faria smiling. Do you have something to say? Anyone else, if not Faria? Yeah, Danarine. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name right. You please feel free to correct me.
No, that's good. It's Danarine. Okay, good morning for everyone. In my case, I guess that is politics are the group of actions or which a government or a elitist group of persons who have the power to control a population or a country in this case, no? In formally context, try to preserve the security and good convivence between everyone. I mean, it's the most important objective of the politics in the long term.
Yeah, totally agreed. Okay, let's hear everyone out. Jose, do you want to go first? Again, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Please correct me if so.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Jose.
Okay, Jose.
About politics, politics is an art of using power and controlling.
Okay.
And it depends on your ability that in every circumstances that you are, how you use your ability, how you use your wisdom, and this is totally about art.
Okay, makes sense, totally. Tejasvi, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I completely agree with what she has said right now. And I also would say that politics is about leadership and a powerful means to maintain peace.
Definitely, I agree. Pritika, do you want to go next?
Yeah, in my opinion, politics is like a clever competition that people participate in to become leaders and to gain some control and power over people.
Totally makes sense. Yeah. Devansh, do you want to go next?
I believe that politics is the art of influencing someone to take power of them for their betterment.
Okay, good. I like that as well. Anyone else before maybe I share my definition, my opinion? Does anyone want to share? Rashi, do you want to share? I see you're smiling a little bit. I'm confused. Are you confused?
Yeah, I kind of agree with all that is said.
All right. Okay, great. Okay, so we got a bunch of different definitions, right? So we got the way of controlling power. We got someone saying about collective decisions, about government, about the art of using power and clever competition. And we got, agreements and nots. So I'm going to share what I personally think politics is. So this might seem like a bold conclusion. So feel free to disagree, but let's move further. I personally think that politics is public life, and public life is everything. I think that everything is political. Everything has a political side. Now, I know this might seem very, very confusing, like how can everything be political? But let me just get my point across through a few examples. And this is really important because we're going to be writing our own poetry. We're going to be doing some really random writing exercises. So please listen closely, okay? So this is going to come in handy. I think in today's day and age, everything can be a political symbol, something that's a political statement. Let me just drive my point across. Let's talk about something that's seemingly ordinary. Let's talk about love, okay? Currently in my country, in India, there are a lot of debates going on in the judiciary about the legalization of same-sex marriage. That's love. And we have a partisan element to this legalization of same-sex marriage. That's political. It's totally, totally political. Let's talk a little bit about food. Food, another thing that we engage in every single day. Like, how is that a political statement? It definitely is. So I'm going to be using like some examples that are India specific, but there are going to be examples that can be applicable worldwide. So in India, there is, in certain regions, beef has been banned by the central government because of the fact that beef is something that, it's not, you're not allowed to consume in Hinduism, right? People from minority communities have been beaten up brutally because they were consuming beef. That's a reason for which they were killed. And this is definitely aligned with partisan politics. Food here is a political statement. Let's talk a little bit about clothes. How can clothes be a political statement? Clothes have always been a political statement. If you wear westernized clothing, certain political parties are not into that. They definitely want to promote a more, let's say, traditional, Eastern culture, at least where I am from, right? So clothing is also a political statement. It can be used as a justification for acts such as sexual harassment or violence because you were wearing revealing clothes. That is a political side to something seemingly ordinary like clothes. So what I'm trying to say is that everything, if you analyze it a little too much, can have a potentially political side. Does anyone have any thoughts, any examples of ordinary issues that they think can be considered political? If anyone disagrees with me, they can also tell me right now. I want to have a discussion about this. Does everyone agree? I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything you said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've really looked at it in that sense, that politics is like everything. But now that you've said that you've given those examples, it does actually make a lot of sense with the clothes and the food.
Yeah, Devansh, you want to share something?
Yes, Dee. I just wanted to ask, like, how is food politics? I like you gave for the beef. Isn't it religion? Isn't it regarding religion, not politics? So I had a question like that.
Great question, Devansh. So in our country, there is definitely an involvement of religion with politics. So food is connected to politics. Religion is also connected to politics. So through equation 1 and equation 2, we can say that food is also connected to politics. So you can see that, in people use religion in politics as a way to get votes. That's a very common tactic. We've seen it throughout generations, through our history. And that is definitely happening in today's day and age as well. So I hope that answered your question, Devansh.
Thank you, Dee.
Okay, Kasturi, let's hear you out.
I agree with you. Like basically, the politics people do, like they divide people on the basis of like non-veg and veg, and they do fighting on it. So I totally agree with you.
Right. Yeah. So the point is that it's very subtle, right? You may not, notice that this is political, but it definitely is. In today's day and age, I'm using that word again and again, but it's true. We are living in an incredibly, let's say, polarized society where anything you can say is going to cause a debate, is going to cause some controversy. That's because everything has become political. Bhavna, do you want to share something?
Yeah, of course. As you said, there's a lot of vote bank politics. And obviously, I'll again take an example of India. Here, most of the vote bank politics depends on caste and also religion. So I wanted to share that. So, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So basically, I know this is going to seem a little complicated right now, but as we are going to write, do some writing exercises, I want you all to keep this in mind. Anything around you, if you look at it too much, if you hold it close to you, you are going to find a political relevance to it. Look for it, hunt for it. It is there. So keep this in mind as we proceed further and write some of our own poetry. Okay. Now, what is poetry? This is more of a very boring question. So I don't want to, so if anyone wants to share what they think poetry is, you all can share. But I personally think this is quite boring. Does anyone have a particular definition of what they consider poetry?
I personally feel like it's a way to express your thoughts.
Okay, that's one, yeah. So basically through Collins Dictionary, this is a very standardized definition, but it's the closest to what I think is a poem, right? So a poem is a piece of writing in which the words are chosen for their beauty and sound and are carefully arranged, often in short lines which rhyme. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the kind of poetry we are going to be concentrating on. we will not do the rhyming thing. So, I'm a strong opponent of rhyme scheme because I think it seriously restricts your writing capability if you're trying to force yourself to rhyme at all times. So these are the 4 core elements that we're going to be focusing on as we write poetry. So you don't have to worry about rhyme scheme. You don't have to worry about alliteration, transfer, epithet, all the other things that you learned in your English classes probably. Just these 4 very, very basic figures of speech that you're all probably familiar with. But just to have a very quick refresher, okay? Very quick. I know this is boring because you all know this before, but very quick refresher, okay? So simile. Simile is essentially a direct comparison of one thing to another thing, where you use an indicator that's quite obvious, like or as. So an example here is the soldier is brave like a lion, right? So it's a direct comparison. You are not trying to make it, you're not trying to make it, like a metaphor, which doesn't use the indicators like or as. So a metaphor is, more more straightforward in the sense that it says the world is a stage. That's by Shakespeare. It does not say the world is like a stage. So if you're ever trying to distinguish between a simile and a metaphor, always hunt for those indicators. All right, let's move on. Imagery. Imagery, again, is extremely self-explanatory from the name itself, right? So an example here is from Daffodils by William Wordsworth. So basically, when you're writing poetry, you don't have the resources available to filmmakers, to cinematographers. You don't have the capability to just show a picture and make the people imagine it immediately. No, you have to invoke those feelings, those visuals through your words. And how do you do that? You write about the 5 senses. So the example given here is a host of golden daffodils beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So you see how they've used visuals. They've used the color golden and to hopefully make you envision it. They've used verbs and movements such as fluttering and dancing so as to, again, make you imagine the movement and what is actually happening. So it's a great example of imagery. And fourth, which is my personal favorite, is personification, where essentially you infuse human-like qualities to inanimate objects or to things that really do not have the capability to have those feelings, right? So an example of personification is actually in imagery as well. So if you see that Wordsworth has said that the daffodils are dancing in the breeze. Daffodils can't dance, but it sounds way better if you say the daffodils are dancing in the breeze than if you just say the breeze is making the daffodils move or something. That sounds really basic. So we don't want to do that. We want to use these figures of speech to make our point a little indirect, I agree, but sound more beautiful. That's the point of poetry, right? So another example of personification that we've given here is death be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful. Death does not have the capability to be proud or to feel these emotions. However, through our writing, we have still said that. So there are a huge list of figures of speech that we can get into. We have alliteration, we have assonance, we have rhyme scheme, but I don't think we should waste our time on these things. I will be sending resources at the end of the workshop where you can definitely have a glimpse at all the other figures of speech. But these are the core ones. Just master your art of poetry with these 4, and then you're good to go. You can use whatever you want after this, but figure out these 4 ones first. Okay, so let's move further. Now, I want us to take some time to distinguish between an seemingly ordinary poem and a political poem. Okay, so Pablo Neruda is my favorite poet, right? And we're going to see one seemingly ordinary poem by Pablo Neruda, and then we're going to analyze a political poem by Mr. Pablo Neruda. And we're going to see the differences in a poem with a political poem, right? So what I'm going to do here is that we're going to analyze the poem. And here are the figures of speech, the 4 figures of speech. We are going to hunt for those in this poem, okay? So again, I want everyone to raise their hand if they spot one like that. So we're just going to read stanza by stanza. I want everyone to participate, okay? So he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines. Write, for example, the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. The night wind revolves in the sky and sings. Does anyone notice anything from these 4 figures of speech in our first few lines? Tejasvi, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's definitely personification and imagery.
For sure, yeah. Can you tell me what is the example of personification? You can read out what you find.
Right. So the first is the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. and that the night wind revolves in the sky and sings. So all of these are human qualities, and
For sure.
at the same time, there's an image created in the
Definitely.
readers.
I agree. Yeah, great job, Tejasvi. So basically, what she said to just to reiterate, stars don't shiver. Pablo Neruda could have easily said the stars are twinkling, but that sounds basic again. So we don't want to do that. We want to use verbs that are new, that are not associated with the noun we're talking about, so as to get our point across better and to make it sound more beautiful. Again, he said the night wind revolves and sings. Winds don't sing. However, we understand what he's trying to say, but it just sounds more aesthetically pleasing. Okay. So I know Devansh and Dharna also raised their hand. We're going to ask them after this. Okay. Let's move on. To hear the immense night, still more immense without her. And the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. What does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is starry and she is not with me. So I know I skipped past a little bit, but here, do you all spot any figures of speech in these lines that we just read? It's a love poem, okay? So I really like this. Angel, go ahead.
I think so. There's a simile, and the verse falls to the soul, like due to the passion.
That's great. Yeah. And how did you spot that? What is the methodology that you used?
Because there's a word like that's both of them.
Exactly. That's great. Does anyone notice like another thing in this very line? Simile, yes, because like, Bhavna, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I thought it's the next line, because in the next line, like the last one, the night is starry, so it's imagery again.
Yeah, that's true. Devansh, you want to go ahead?
A personification as to hear the immense night.
Right, that's good. And then in the verse falls to the soul, again, it's personification, because the verse, again, falling verse, like he basically is trying to say that, this night, he's really missing his lover, he's without her. And as he's writing poetry, the poetry comes to him so naturally. The verse is falling to his soul. So again, that's a quality that the verse doesn't exactly have. However, to just make it, sound aesthetically pleasing in his poem, he has used the verb falling. So that's also another example of personification. I consider that. So this is one of my favorite poems by Mr. Pablo Neruda. I really like it. It's a poem, you can reminisce over, if you're having heartbreak or whatever. So the last line is, though this be the last pain she makes me suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her. So I think it's really beautiful. So I think a really important element for writing poetry of your own, and this is not even for political poetry, it's just reading more poets, reading acclaimed poets, award-winning poets. Mr. Pablo Neruda is a Nobel laureate. So let's move on, okay? Before we read a political poem and get our hands into, the first piece of political poems we'll read, I want us all to look at this quote. This again is one of my favorite quotes. I'm going to say that a lot, but it's true because I've put in a lot of my favorite quotes just thrown at you all to just for food for thought, right? So keep this in mind as you write. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Now, let me tell you another thing. When you're writing political poems, right, essentially, ideally, I would want you all to write about social injustices, about the communities who are oppressed, the communities who are suffering. Political poems can also be supporting the people who are the oppressors. You can write poems that are supporting, let's say, people who are, conducting wars. You can write poems about that, and that is also a political poem. But that's not the political poem we should be writing today. Because essentially, we need to disturb the comfortable. We need to disturb the status quo. We need to disturb the leaders who are at the throne, who are conducting this oppression. That's what we ideally want to do. But I just want to put this across that, there's a lot of propaganda as well. You can use political poetry for the wrong reasons. But hopefully through this workshop, we are educated and we know that we should avoid that. And we know how to spot what is propaganda and what is not. Okay, so keep this at the back of your mind. Don't forget this as you write your own poems. All right. So let's move further. This is another poem by Mr. Pablo Neruda, but this is a political poem. Okay, so we're also going to be analyzing this. So let's read. I'm explaining a few things. So this is an excerpt. The longer poem is available on the internet, so you all can definitely look it up. From every house, burning metal flows instead of flowers. From every socket of Spain, Spain emerges. And from every dead child, a rifle with eyes. And from every crime, bullets are born, which will one day find the bull's eye of your hearts. What figure of speech do you notice in this first stanza? Devansh, go ahead.
It's filled with personification.
Where do you spot it? Tell me the line.
So like from every socket of Spain, and also every kind bullets are born. Bullets cannot be born.
Okay.
Cannot. And
anything else?
No.
Okay. Does anyone want to add something? Bhavna, go ahead.
There's also personification in a rifle with eyes. Like rifles don't have eyes.
Yeah, definitely. Why is no one talking about this last line? I love this line so much. The bull's eye of your hearts. What does that mean? Anyone?
Like, can it be considered
Maybe
like the target of your hearts?
Wait, can one person talk? I didn't catch. Tejasvi, you can go ahead then, Bhavna.
Yeah, so basically like the center, like deep within you, it would hit you.
Totally. What figure of speech is that? Faria, I know you raised your hand. Do you want to say something?
I feel like it's a metaphor for like describing that.
Yeah,
So I also really like that line.
Me too. Yeah, it's a metaphor, guys. And he could have easily said that the crime in Spain, the war in Spain is going to make you feel very sad or something. He could have said like that. But no, he chose to use this line. And tell me, isn't it so much more impactful? The bull's eye of your hearts. Like, damn, that sounds so good. Okay, let's move further. This again is I really like the last two stanzas because it again brings us to the Marwan Nakul quote that we started off, right? In order to write poetry that isn't political, the warplanes must stop. So Mr. Neruda says, and you will ask, why doesn't his poetry speak of dreams and leaves and the great volcanoes of his native land? Come and see the blood in the streets. Come and see the blood in the streets. So again, he is not writing political poetry. He's not writing about the war in Spain because he enjoys it. No, there's nothing to enjoy. He's writing it because he is obliged to, he's bound to, he is compelled to, because it is so moving. He cannot possibly not write about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Remember these lines, okay? This is not for entertainment. You can never reduce the sufferings of the world around you for pure entertainment and for an activity you're doing for leisure. That's not the way to go about it. So let's avoid that, okay? So let's analyze a few more poems, okay? So this one, okay. Let's look at the definition of political poetry first. So this is, the closest definition I found, which I agree with for the most part. So it's by Mr. Edward Hirsch, okay? So poetry of social concern and conscience, that is politically engaged poetry. So this feeling often runs high in the social poetry of engagement, especially when it's partisan. So when I say partisan, I mean that there are definitely political ideologies. You can write political poetry that is supporting the right wing, about the left wing, about the centrist, whatever. You can write political poetry from different viewpoints. That's totally possible. As they say, poets write on both sides of any given war. They can defend the state, they can attack it. All patriotic and nationalistic poetry is by definition political. Political poetry, ancient and modern, good and bad, frequently responds vehemently to social injustice. Okay, so let's move forward. What are the objectives of political poetry? So as you all are going to be writing some of your own political poetry, what are the goals that you should strive towards? First, awareness. You need to highlight, question, criticize, and spark conversations about issues that are affecting the public. This is very important because, people may not agree with you, but essentially at the end of, your poetry, you want to ensure that you are able to have a conversation with them at least. Maybe convince them. Maybe they won't be convinced. Maybe you will be convinced to go on their side. You never know. But you want to have a civil conversation with them instead of just like arbitrarily like not budging at all and being so forceful about your point of view. Don't do that. Second, you want to create change. Again, through poetry, you don't expect to change laws overnight, get a perfect utopic country in 1 week. That's not going to happen. But we want to create change by reaching out to stakeholders, using your poetry in campaigns at the grassroots level and just, spreading the word. Okay. So let's look at some spoken word poetry. So today, unfortunately, we won't be learning on how to perform poetry. We're going to do that maybe in another workshop. But this is a really good example. This is one of my favorite poems by Maya Angelou. It's about feminism, women empowerment, and she has performed it beautifully. So I want you all to just take a look at it and we're going to analyze this afterwards, okay? So if you're not able to hear the audio, please let me know, but I've shared the audio. So let's start.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Okay, so I really like that poem, and I think, maybe I was just like so captivated by the way she was reciting it. Maybe I didn't analyze it too well. So I have the written text here as well for all of you. But Maya Angelou, she is, first of all, she's a woman. She's a Black woman, and this poem has a lot of relevance with the feminist movement. So let's analyze it, okay? So there are a lot of figures of speech here. So let's go through it all one by one. So she says, "You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise." Figures of speech in the first stanza itself. What do you notice? Bhavna, go ahead.
Simile, but still like dust I'll rise.
Exactly. So this is, I think, the core element. There are many still like XYZ I'll rise. So she says, "I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room." She doesn't have oil wells in her living room. She could have easily said, "I walk confidently." But would that have the same impact as this? Not at all. So as we're going to be writing poetry, right, you have to figure out ways to get your point across in an indirect way, but it makes total sense, right? When she says she walks like she's got oil wells in her living room, we know exactly what she means. She doesn't have to spoon feed to us that, she's walking confidently. We can infer that. So you have to assume that the reader is an intelligent person who knows what you're talking about, and you have to use figures of speech that cater to the intelligence of your reader, okay? So like this, we have so many similes, like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, and then a lot of, let's look at this. Shoulders falling down like teardrops. What's that?
It's
exactly. I want to talk about this. Now let's talk about this. "Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide." What is this?
I mean, she's sort of alluding to slavery in America because she's a Black woman. So it also creates like this sort of effect in the audience that she's responding to these, oppressors who really put her down. But regardless of all their, oppression, she'll still continue to persevere and rise. So which makes the theme very evident, which is all about perseverance.
Yeah, totally, definitely. So you see I'm a black ocean. So that might be like, okay, ocean, like normal metaphor, but it's not a normal metaphor. She could have just said, I'm an ocean, I leaping in white, but she did not. She used the word black to point at her history, to point at her identity. So it's like a symbol that you may miss very easily, but she has still chosen to incorporate. So like this symbolism is really evident, right? Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. Maybe by daybreak she's talking about the predominantly white America where she is living in. So there are many different ways to analyze this and many different symbols used, which you may not understand or see at the first read, but you still need to incorporate those things. So it comes over time, definitely, but it's a brilliant poem that's talking about feminism, women empowerment, and perseverance. So that's great. Okay, let's move further, shall we? All right. So this is a poem that I wrote. So we're going to very quickly analyze this because we don't have, I want to get to like writing some of our own poetry, enough of theory. Practical is where you actually, get your hands dirty and just start, doing things. But basically, this is something I wrote for the 75th Independence Day in India, right? So, it's, we talk a little bit. I'm not going to read the entire thing. So basically, it's titled The Bird of Freedom. So essentially, I have symbolized freedom as a bird. So it's a metaphor as a whole that I'm using, right? So the first stanza is like this. The bird of freedom rejoices today. It is her night. For 75 years have passed since the darkness of those 200. People in India or people anywhere else, do you know what this means? I hope you do. What do we mean by the darkness of 200?
It's basically saying that since the 200 years of the colonial rule, it has been 75 years since then, and since that kind of a darkness.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I could have used the word colonialism, but I didn't. So basically be indirect, but in a way that people are still able to understand. So 75 years have passed, and finally today our bird can take a breath. So let's move on. Let's see this paragraph, this stanza. The bird of freedom has grown. The cages have been unlocked. The bird of freedom is able to fly and leave behind the mortuary of what those 200 years left behind. Yet she is unmoving, burning. She says, I burn for the writers jailed for having voices different from what the rulers wish to hear. I burn for the poor that lie on footpaths, leaving traces of our failure as reminders that chains need not be of iron, they can be of homelessness. Of mothers cradling toddlers under the moonlight, of fathers pulling rickshaws under the Delhi sun, of children selling flags at Andheri Amor. It's Independence Day, they say, and she thinks this is no independence. So basically, in all these stanzas, I talk about the poor, the homeless, the fathers and the mothers. What is the figure of speech that you all notice here?
Metaphor, you can say.
Okay, maybe I'm looking for another one as well.
Imagery.
Yes. Who was that? I don't even know who's talking. Who was that?
Kritika.
Okay, yeah, that's an imagery because you really need to figure out how you will describe things. I say mothers cradling toddlers under the moonlight. Hopefully, if I was successful as a poet through this poetry, you are able to perhaps imagine the moonlight of fathers pulling rickshaws under the Delhi sun. So I have used, the senses. I've capitalized on the 5 senses to hopefully make the reader imagine these things. So this is an example of imagery. So again, be indirect, but also in certain places, especially at imagery, be direct. Say what you're describing and be very, very direct as to, what you're trying to say. Okay. So let's move further, shall we? Okay. All right. Now we're going to write our own poetry. So for this, let's do this. So I want you all to pick any object around you. Don't get intimidated. It's not, too tough. So I want you to just hunt around you, pick any object. I see a window, I see some apples, whatever. Go get any object around you. Okay. So here are some very poor graphics of some objects that I saw around myself when I was making the presentation. Get any of those objects. I'm giving you all 30 seconds. Choose something. And I want you to perhaps like hold it to yourself so maybe I can see what you are choosing. So I need your cameras on and I need you to find something. 30 seconds. If everyone has chosen their object, I see Bhavna. Is that a candle?
It is a candle. It's a candle.
I see a book. I need other people as well. I see Devansh holding something. What is Devansh holding? I have no idea.
Oh, that's a tunnel.
Okay. I see Anya holding a maths textbook. Okay, that's great. And I see Faria holding a plant. Is that a plant? I'm so sorry. I can't see.
Yeah, it's a artificial flower pot.
Okay, that's so cute. All right. Okay. Let's see what we're going to do next, shall we? Okay. So we talked about how everything is political, right? And everything has a political side, right? So I want you to look at your object really closely, look at it very closely, just figure out everything you know about your object and think about the political side. Think about it. Everything has a political side. You need to hunt for it. And I'm telling you, you can go like above and beyond. Like I can look at a bottle of jam or ketchup and I can perhaps think of blood and the blood of our soldiers. Like you can do things like that. You don't have to be too direct. The point of this is that, you just figure out, you analyze something so much that you'll always find another political side to it, right? So think about it a little, okay? I know it's a little tough. So I've given an example here of something I wrote in like the amount of time you're all going to get, like 5-7 minutes. Okay. So I wrote about a window, which was a very basic example, but don't write about windows, guys. Write about something else. This is an example. So I wrote, it's been 1,000 days. The rays of sun sing me a lullaby. I hum the truth amidst the violence, barred from my country, bars surrounding my protest. I peer out of the window. Freedom, a distant reality. For now, I am content with this lullaby and I fall asleep. So again, it's nothing extraordinary, but essentially what I'm talking about is that in India, we had a political activist, Umar Khalid, who has been put behind bars for 1,000 days. And he is, known for his protest against central government. And it's been 1,000 days since he's been behind bars. So the day I wrote this was, the day it was the 1,000th day. So look at your object and look at it so closely, you will inevitably find a political side to it. Okay, it's inevitable. So again, I'm putting these things on your screen if you need some inspiration. And I have also put together a few quotations because I love quotations. I love Pinterest. I love Tumblr. So I put together some quotations. If you all want some inspiration as to how you want to write, what lines you want to put. So these are some of my favorite ever quotes, right? So I'm giving you all 10 minutes. We're going to reconnect at 12:02. And you all need to write like 4 to 6 lines, okay? And I want you to write it in such a way that you can share with the people. So either you type it out loud so that you can like share it on chat, or you click a picture, you can send it on the WhatsApp group, whatever way. We want to see what you write. And we will analyze your poetry together the same way we analyze Maya Angelou and Pablo Neruda. Okay? So 12:02, everyone start writing. If you have any questions, you can ask on the chat. Aman, you're asking essentially, everyone can start writing, but we're going to actually look for an object around us, any object that we find around us. So it could be a comb, a calendar, a chair, anything we find around us. And we want us to look at the political side to that object and write about 4 to 6 lines. So we're going to be sharing our poetry at 12:02 p.m. So you all have 10 minutes, 4 to 6 lines about any random ordinary object you find. Okay, 3 minutes left, guys. I know some of you are already done, which is great. I know this is a little tough, so I admire you all for, still taking up the challenge. So 3 more minutes. Okay, I hope everyone's done. So all those who want to share, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to hear everyone out. I want to hear as many people as possible, but someone on the chat. Okay, cool. Okay, so we already have some responses. Okay, Ankita. So Ankita, do you want to just read out what you wrote? Simultaneously, we'll just see the chat and read it for ourselves as well. But Ankita, you can just read out.
Yeah, sure. So the object that I chose was an audiobook because that's what I was listening to before the meeting. There is the story of how I was born, even when they wanted a boy. There is the story of how I was raised, to never compromise in a world that expected me to. There is the story that is yet to come, where my stories inspire others. I have stories to tell. We've been missing.
That's amazing. Oh my God. Guys, please switch on your camera first of all. I feel like, when you share such great poetry, like my face is just like, wow. So I need everybody to have that wow face for Ankita's poetry. Please switch on your camera. That was a great poem. Oh my God. Does anyone, okay, we're going to analyze everyone's poem. So does anyone spot figures of speech? What do you spot? What do you think about Ankita's poem? Because I have a lot to say, but I'm going to let you all speak. Anyone? Raise your hand, please. What figure of speech is the main thing? Bhavna, go ahead.
I think the main figure of speech that is here is imagery, how she grew up and then how she wants to tell the stories. And then like obviously how her parents or like, I don't know, I'm just assuming here. So how her parents wanted a boy and then all of that is all imagery. We can all imagine that how she must have suffered, or I don't know, like in this poem, it's like it is about her and how her story, it's mostly about her story and what she wants to tell.
Yeah, no, I love this, definitely. And I think it has like a bit of metaphor also. Ankita, do you want to explain what you used? I'm a little confused now after hearing Bhavna's response because I was thinking metaphor. Ankita, please shed some light.
I think that mostly I did want to go for imagery, as in it's just more of a storytelling where you could kind of imagine the story in the head that the person is born and then how they're raised and then the future. So I think it's more. I was going for imagery.
Yeah, no, that's great. Any other thoughts on Ankita's poem before we move on? We have a lot of poems to go through. Okay, let's read Bhavna's poem. Bhavna, can you read out your thing? And simultaneously, everyone please open your chat and read also while Bhavna recites.
Yes, so it's about a candle. I chose a candle. So a candle, it burns in our homes, but is it only the candle that burns? The hands of the makers burn with the sculpting, shaping, and scenting of the wax. Yet we only pay attention to the candle and not the beautiful hands that the candle is made from.
I love that. Oh my God. It's like I think it's like something we should all figure out. Like it's something probably Karl Marx would say, like about the means of production. And Bhavna, we're not in sociology class right now, but I love that. Oh my God. Anyone want, please share your thoughts. What do you notice in the poem? Figures of speech, thoughts, anything. Go ahead. Kasturi, you're sending a heart. Do you want to talk about it? I want to hear everyone out. Hearts won't do, guys. Sirsha, I'm so sorry. How do you pronounce your name?
Yeah, it's Shisha.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think like the main figure of speech here is like personification, metaphor. So yeah, like the candle is kind of the metaphor for, like the goods that we have, like the goods that we use in a regular basis in a capitalist economy. And so yeah, I really loved the thought, like especially the line where it says that the hands of the makers burn and yet we only pay attention to the candle and not the beautiful hands which it is made from. So I really loved it. Like awesome.
Me too. Any other thoughts on Bhavna's poem? Anyone else?
I'm just speechless of how beautiful it was, and I don't know how, but it's like it's so like I can resonate a lot on that, and yeah, it's like the quote you shared with us earlier. The art should comfort the discomfort and all that. It's like basically describing that.
Yeah, that was great, Bhavna. Amazing. Okay, I know Kasturi sent on the WhatsApp group, so we'll check that as well. But first, let's hear Janvi. Janvi, please recite your poem and then we'll read the chat also.
Hi. Okay, so my poem is basically written from the point of view of a child in a Yemeni civil war, which is going from 2014 till present. So I'll just go ahead. Another day passed. Sorry, is Advika's mic open? I'm hearing that.
Advika, can you mute? Okay, yeah, Janvi, go ahead.
Okay.
So,
okay. Another day passed by without needed weight on my back, suffering under the baggage of work, my young hands. Kids frolicking to the educational huts on the other side. But here I stand with a torn of my back, my hopes, my dreams, tarnished under the power play scheme.
That's great. I love how you used rhyme scheme, even though I was like, rhyme scheme is beyond me. I am incapable of doing that, but I love it. What was your object again? I forgot.
It was a bag, so I basically emphasized on the fact that the child is the child wants a needed weight, that is the bag, but instead he's getting the baggage of work, which is like he's forced into child labor. So that's what's happening in the Yemeni civil war situation.
That's great. Oh my God. Anyone please share your thoughts. Hype Janvi up, guys. This was great. Anyone? Bhavna, go ahead.
Such a thought-provoking poem that how we are only focused on our own countries. Like I didn't even know about this till now. So I am very much like I'm very moved by this poem. And like I'm not a poem person, to be honest. I'm much more of a prose person. So hearing this and like genuinely contemplating about it, it's amazing. So yes, I feel like I'm falling in love with poetry now.
Yeah, Bhavna casually say that she's not a poem person after writing a brilliant poem. That's very nice. Casual flex. But okay. Let's hear Anya. Anya wrote Math's book, which is the most unusual object here. So I'm curious. Anya, please read it out.
So, okay, before I start, I need to show my train of thought, which was books, then education, which kind of led me to gun violence in the US, figure how that came, but
Yeah.
I haven't actually written about the gun violence part yet. I
It's
just wrote like 4 lines.
That's fine.
But
Go ahead.
I'm grateful to live in my world, where the burning sun of July is the biggest obstacle, where wondering if I'll get away with incomplete physics homework is the only thing that plagues me at night.
I love that. I think Anya is the only one who actually made like something little funny and lighthearted. All of us are talking about wars and laborers being exploited. Anya has that sense of humor. I like that. Any other thoughts on Anya's? Please, I really like it. Thoughts, comments?
If you start your poem like that, I'm afraid you're going to have to write a book because I just want to keep reading it.
Totally. That's great. Okay, let's move on. Anaga, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Please correct me.
No, it's right. It's okay. A bewildered book. As the pages turn, chapters change. Friends turn enemies. The words on the pages have no choice but to follow the chapters.
I love that. That sounds like it's like from a book that's already published and it's like an extract. Anaga, are you a published author secretly? Who knows?
No.
You'll probably be in my place conducting the workshop. Hopefully, you're
No.
not. Thoughts, comments,
Okay.
poem? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I just wanted to say that the poem's basically about the changing relations between countries and how the people have no other choice but to just follow this dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Anyone wants to share their thoughts? No one? Okay, we'll move on. Abdul, do you want to read out your poem, please?
Oh, you mean me? Okay. 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 The dusty books lying in the libraries, waiting to be rekindled by an incandescent hand. Alas, war has cut the searing hand which held the fountain of knowledge and queries.
Wow, I love that. All of you don't even need a workshop. Like, why have you joined? You know this already. Okay, let's talk about figures of speech. What do you notice in Abdul's poem, like the figure of speech he's used and on the lines? Open your chat, guys, and tell me.
I think metaphor is there.
Which one? Where?
War has cut that searing hand, like of knowledge and stuff, right?
What if I say that's like personification? How can war cut something? Isn't that like a human-like quality?
Yeah, it is personification.
What about the last line? What is that? Anyone wants to share? What's the fountain of knowledge?
The library?
No, like the figure of speech that they have used for this.
Metaphor.
Yeah, it's a metaphor. So that's great. I really liked it, Abdul. Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's hear Fariha. Go ahead. You're on mute, actually.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. I wrote it about, you see, okay. The delicate enchantedness of a rose takes its stand, a crimson emblem of power and demand. Its thorns speak of its struggles, battles forth in strife. But like an adamant soldier blooming in rebellion, no doubt it's now the symbol of her life.
Wow, that's so nice. Oh my God.
I honestly don't know, like, I didn't have like a political aspect while writing that, but as I kept going on, I transformed it into like the struggles, soldiers and like soldiers in general, and people who are fighting up for themselves, women taking the stand for themselves would like feel. So yeah, I sort of related it to that.
Yeah, no, that's really nice. I really like it. Thank you so much. Like all of you are really talented, like at first I was a little reluctant to put in this exercise. I was like, let's just, people choose what they write about. But it's really tough to just, find a random object and write about it. And you all did it, which is great. So someone, Kasturi sent their poem on the WhatsApp group. So if you all have access to WhatsApp now, you can open it. Kasturi, do you want to read out your thing? Kasturi, are you here? Okay, they're not here. That's okay. Let's move on to Gaurika. Go ahead, Gaurika.
So my poem is about a book book stands there, mouth wide open, waiting for us to hear its word. We have heard, all right. What about those who are cursed? Cursed to never hear the truth, to never reach the light, to never hold knowledge in their hands, to never reach their full mind.
I love that. Any thoughts on Gaurika's poem, guys?
I think it's similar to like the message that I was sending through my poem, like about how we are mostly self-absorbed and like not really paying attention to the hard work that goes behind the scenes. So
Yeah, definitely. Devansh, do you want to share thoughts?
Yes, it was quite an inspirational story and a poem, and I also learned of how we don't even know of ourselves and how we don't even read our entire mind. How we are so indulged in doing other things and not what we are.
Srina, you're
I'm so sorry. I feel embarrassed. Okay, yeah. I just said Devansh, yeah, that's great. So I was just saying that Pritika has written a whole, I said 4 to 6 lines. I thought that would be hard, but Pritika has done a lot here. So let's hear Pritika out. Pritika, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry for see, I'm like a poet, and when I write a lot. That's why.
Totally okay. Go ahead. I like it.
This glamour that follows me everywhere, this convenience and luxury that isn't fair. The way I replace you every time you tear, neglecting the fear the gentle flowers have on the other side of the world. There isn't naught that I can do. When I act like money really does grow on the bushes in my balcony, like I don't have that threat of spilled blood looming over me. Gentle flowers, don't expect me to save your lives, for this world built me like a lamp that only emits darkness, not light.
Wow. Damn, Pritika, that's really good. Does anyone want to share their thoughts?
That was, I am genuinely like slightly in shock. That is so good.
And you wrote that in like what, 10 minutes? How? Please share your thoughts. Do you want to switch places, Pritika? We can do that. But that's great. Okay, let's look at some figures of speech. For this world, build me like a lamp that only emits darkness, not light. What is that, guys?
Simile.
Like a lamp, yeah, that's simile. That only emits darkness, not light. I feel like that's like I would say it's metaphor. It's an indirect way of like saying, that the negativity or like the things that are uncharacteristic of a lamp. Pritika, do you want to share more thoughts of what was your thought process as you were writing, maybe?
So basically, the object I chose was a pencil pouch. And as I was writing, I thought that how we have like the most little of things that are up to our convenience, and whatever we need, it's in front of us. But somewhere there are children who are just living on the most basic things that they require to survive, and how they don't have the access to everything. Like I have a pencil pouch, it's torn, now I get a new one. They don't have that privilege. So that's what I thought.
Totally, yeah. You all are very smart, the capability to think about these things just from like a random object. That's very impressive. Okay, I want to hear Arushi out. Arushi, are you here with us?
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my poem is about a teapot. It goes like, heavy clouds are fusing with each other in the sky. Echoing rumbles of thunder, my indie playlist. Everything's playing, but my ears are dry. Teapot on stove. The daily supplements inside. Awaiting whistle, the cry. The teapot whistles. Something inside me died. Usual whistles on a summer day never caused the bells to ring. Teapot is screaming today, a deep agony in me it brings. You burn yourself down to ashes. Only lyric the whistle sings. And the teapot burns the house into ashes. Raindrops on the ashes in line runs. Nevertheless, I sit, all wet. Nothing screams, but I open my lungs. A loud cry follows a shriek. I scream, but the wind fills up my lungs.
Wow.
So I actually I wrote this poetry keeping the thing in mind, like when a like war is going on, what is its impact on a particular human being who just lives in that country and earns his money, and that's it. So it's about how we are getting into that war. The time between the war is the second paragraph, and what is the outcome of the war is the third paragraph.
That's great.
In his
Very
life.
impressive. Writing this in 10 minutes. I love that. That's great. Thank you so much, Arushi. Okay, can we hear Vishak now? I'm sorry again if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Yeah, my name is pronounced as Vishak.
Oh, Vishak. Go ahead.
What most perceive a pen to be is a simple tool for writing, but only those who know its true value know that it is not just a writing tool, but a weapon to be handled with much care and caution, and not for damage, but for repair and growth. So my basically my thought process when I was writing this was that how a pen is like a double-sided sword, and it can be used to write false things and as well as true things, but which is why it's to be handled with care and caution.
For sure. I agree. We are writers here. So I talk a little bit about political propaganda and how we as writers have a lot of power in our pen, right? So we choose the way we want to utilize that. So I think Vishak has, given us a little bit of a warning as to, how much power we actually hold, but we may not realize it, but we do. So that's great. Thank you so much. Much needed reminder.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a great poem. So I just wanted to share that I personally interpreted it as like the one what should I say? Idiom, I think. It's like a pen is mightier than a sword.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that instantly flashed my mind when I read this poem.
Great. You all are like master writers and master analyzers. So that's great. Best of both worlds. Rashi, are you here with us? Do you want to share your poem, please?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I turn open the cap of my marker and the color blue spills out on the paper. The color blue, the color of the eyes of most of my favorite characters, singers, and movie stars. The color of my genes. The color that competed against red after the world wars and won. The color that people turn to, admire, wear, knowingly or unknowingly. I wonder when I'll stop the blue marker from mixing, influencing, and ruining all other colors I haven't noticed.
That's great. Do you want to share your thought process? Explain it a little bit to us?
So I had a blue marker in front of me, and like the blue color represents US, I think so. That inspired me to write, and then I noticed that most of the things that I wear and like all the things around me is like so influenced by US, and we don't like to agree to it so much, but it is true.
Yeah, no, totally. That's great. And Rashi seems like younger than all of us. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming. So I really like it that, you're despite like, I don't know how old you are, but you look young. So despite your age, you're coming here and writing such good poetry. That's great. Thank you so much, Rashi, for participating. Okay, let's hear Sirsha out. Sirsha, here with us? I see Sirsha.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hi. Do you want to share your poem?
Yeah, sure. So basically, this is again about a book, and it's mostly about the fact that when I wrote it thinking about the book that was beside me, but but thinking about it also made me think that it is more about like the fact that when a political situation happens, things like war, then like there are only memories that we are left with. So this is somewhere about that. Do not despair the fate of lost books, faded, forgotten, old, or even burned. Their words are still remembered, their lessons still learned. Stories never forgotten, memories made anew. Hold fast to these, the sturdy and the true, that are more lovely than your love, more actual than you. They give you the courage to dream, the wings to soar high. They are more regal than royalty, more actual than you. There are days they have been the thirst and the days when they have been the water. But the days I love them most are the days when they are both. There's a love I reminisce. There's a seed I've never sown. of lips that I'm yet to kiss, and eyes not my own, hands that wrap around my wrists, and arms that feel like home. I wonder how it is I miss these things I have never known.
I love it. Does anyone have any thoughts they want to share?
The last paragraph is so good. It has that like sweet lover romantic vibe, but and the words are like so meaningful. It's so good.
Totally, I agree. Anyone else? Before we move on to our last poem by Devansh.
Yeah, so good. Like the last paragraph is just chef's kiss. It's so good.
Totally. I love the supportive environment we're creating. Everyone, please switch on your camera though. I want to see your faces as you all, hype other people up. So please switch on your camera. That would be great. I'm waiting. Okay. Hi, great to see Sirsha. Other people? Okay. So let's hear Devansh. Go ahead. We can hear you. Yeah.
Skimming through the pages, revealing the dark side, fighting for life, fighting for freedom, not for me, but for the sad life of people sitting before the sad light. The bodies lay untouched, but were filled with hope, neither of death nor of defeat, but of rising the glossy heart of a nation, bold in the sky, and in the pages of life.
That's great. The pages of life, that's a metaphor, right? We are not saying life is like the pages of a book. No like, no as, that's a metaphor. Anyone has any thoughts, things that they notice about Devansh's? And I like the Devansh, the way he sent it. Like, I think maybe it's like a formatting issue, but a lot of times people think that poetry has to be like, line breaks, like short lines, but poetry can also be prose poetry, that's like with free verse, with, the liberties you have as poets. You can do anything, absolutely anything. Devansh, do you want to say something?
Yes, actually, I didn't know how to switch the lines. So I just thought that with the space bar I can do it, but that wasn't successful.
That's totally okay. That's okay. I like it. Devansh also is young. I know Devansh personally, so he's also very young and for his age, this is great. Thank you, Devansh, for participating. Prisha, go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. The book White Tiger lies on the bed, but the white tiger tries to tell me, as if she's caged in the book. Does she want to tear the pages? Does she want to be free? Confused, I put the book back.
As someone who loves the book White Tiger, I'm not sure how many of you have read it. Read White Tiger by Aravind Adiga. It's a Booker Prize winning novel. It's about, again, the exploitation of labor. The first poem that we read by Bhavna, it's about like a driver, who was employed and exploited endlessly by their employers. Prisha, I love this poem. I love it so much. Does anyone have thoughts?
I love the book, so I wrote about it.
Yeah, I can.
It's one of my favorite books. So.
Same. Anyone has any thoughts? Okay. I think everyone's just like processing all the amazing poems that we just read in the span of like a few minutes. So thank you so much for participating. We're not ending the workshop, guys. Don't leave. But I love all of you for, sharing the poetry, because I was genuinely a little reluctant. I was like, will people be able to do it? Like, will it be like awkward? No one's sharing anything. But you all have been so active. So thank you so much. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to go back to some theory before we come back to some practical again. But that
just a short note on Prisha's poem. I think for something so short, it is so meaningful. I would not have expected 4 lines to make me think that much. So kudos to you, Prisha. It is genuinely very nice.
Thank you. I agree. Wait, I'm just going to stop sharing and share my audio as well. I don't think I did that. Wait. Yeah, so we're going to talk about protest now and examples of when poetry created change. And you mentioned a short poem, so I have a perfect example for that. Before we get to another quote thrown at you, which I will again say is one of my favorite quotes, but I will keep saying that, you can't stop me. So it's by Albert Camus. It goes like this: the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence becomes an act of rebellion. This is the case of, political prisoners, journalists, activists, a lot of the times they put behind bars. They weren't actually like on the streets protesting about something. They were just existing. Their existence is a threat to the status quo. That is, the level of rebellion, the level of protest that they have, engaged in. So in a society where things are truly, truly bad and you truly, truly need to, protest against things, this should be your ideal state to reach. But of course, it's extremely dangerous, risky, but it is what it is. So let's talk a little bit about one real life instance of protest and poetry. Okay. So in late 1962, Stokely Carmichael read the poem Harlem by Langston Hughes at a rally in Mississippi, US. And it became an anthem for the civil rights movement. So let's look at the poem first. So I'm going to go back to what Anya said about short poems and how they have a great impact. So we're going to go read the poem and then we're going to come back to the analysis of the poem, okay? So Harlem, it's also called A Dream Deferred. It's by Langston Hughes, a very famous African-American poet, okay? So you all can read for yourself, but I'll just read out loud as well. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? So let's look at the analysis of the poem. So this poem is essentially about the African-American experience, race, identity, resistance. So Hughes' poem both psychologically contextualizes the Harlem riots. Essentially, it was where a 15-year-old was killed by a police lieutenant. And basically the poem was, it contextualizes this event and it predicts future unrest. So let's look at this. So this seems very random. So you probably won't understand what Mr. Langston Hughes is trying to say if you don't know the context of this poem. Like why is he talking about raisins and rotten meat and syrup? So basically he's talking about the deferred dream of the African-American individual, the dream that has been endlessly postponed and denied. What happens to it? Does it just, just sink and into acceptance, or does it actually explode and demand the rights that it deserves? So basically another example, going back to Anya and Prisha's poem, you need not write a huge long ballad to make an impact. You can make an impact with a short poem. So this has been depicted perfectly by Langston Hughes. So US presidential speeches. So I know in the very beginning, Aman asked a question about, what is the intersection of poetry and protest? So in the US, poetry has been used several times in speech writing and it's become really famous at times. So the most memorable and effective addresses use literary devices to make policies accessible and digestible to the public. So the former speechwriter of Kennedy Johnson says that the basic purpose of political rhetoric is to move men to action or alliance. And then another speechwriter of a former president says, good speech writing is the ability to make the prosaic poetic. So let's look at this video.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
So basically the point I'm trying to prove is that poetry, so this was actually a very, very famous speech. Like this became really iconic immediately. And essentially it tries to portray the fact that using poetry can be a medium to enhance activism. Going back to the initial points we started off as, you cannot change laws overnight through poetry. You cannot get a perfect country in 1 week using poetry, but you can drive your point across through a diverse medium, which people maybe are not that accustomed with. Okay, let's move further. So let's look at this question, which you're all probably thinking. Can poetry make actual change, actual tangible change? No, unfortunately, no, that's not the case. Poetry cannot change things overnight. As you looked at the poem Harlem by Mr. Langston Hughes, it was a poem that was used in the civil rights movement, in the, the protests on ground. But can you say that because of the usage of the poem Harlem, African Americans got their rights? That's not the case, is it? The poetry wasn't a causation for the victory of African Americans in the US. That was not the case. but it was just a way to popularize the movement, to make it more accessible to the masses, to make it more diverse, to make it more interesting, to make people want to join, because of the incredibly captivating poem that was used by Mr. Stokely, right? It made the movement more popular, and that's a great thing that poetry did. But again, it's not a causation that we consider it caused the rights. Because of this, the rights of African Americans became. We cannot say that. So poetry is but a tool to enhance the process of activism, to reach out to more people, and to spread our message to a wider audience. Okay, so let's move further. I know we just wrote some more poetry. I want us all to take a quick break. I want us all to take a 10-minute break. And in those 10 minutes, what I want is you go back to the poem that you just wrote about the objects and you elaborate on it a little bit further. So let's see how we're going to do that, okay? So I want us all to not look for an object right now. I want us all to think internally. Think of an issue that has radicalized you. In the earlier writing exercise we did, we just randomly picked an object and we were sort of restricted and we were bound to just stick to that. Now you all have the creative liberty to think freely about any issue that has radicalized you totally. Every person has one such issue that they have a soft spot for, an issue that really just moves them, that they really they're very, very passionate about it. Everyone has a different issue, right? So I want us all to just take 30 seconds and think of one particular issue that they think they are more passionate about compared to all the other issues. It should be something that you feel angry about. Because a lot of times, when we're talking about movements, social movements, and peace and just social justice, people, have this attitude like, you do things with an open mind, a calm mind, and that's perfectly all right. But in one TED talk by Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, who's a Nobel laureate, it's called "To Get Peace, You Need to Be Angry." A lot of the famous movements all throughout the world, let's talk about the Stonewall riots, which, were monumental in getting rights for LGBTQ plus people in the US. About Black Lives Movement, of course, that's a little more controversial, but there was a lot of violence involved in these movements. And what that did is that violence, it made an impact. And it sped up the process of a little bit and it gained more popularity, the movement itself. So basically, in order to, get the rights you deserve, to talk about the issues you feel passionate about, you need to be a little angry. That's totally natural. So think about something that has radicalized you. Think about something that has made you feel really, really angry. So these are some ideas, basic, things that came to my mind about what generally has been going around in our world, right? So you all are free to, deviate from what is on your screen, but basically these are some that I came up with. So gender discrimination, poverty, wars, racism, violation of democratic rights, civic rights, free speech, freedom of association, oppression of indigenous people. Think of these issues. What really speaks to you? Narrow that down. So what I want us all to do is that we'll take a 10-minute break. And in those 10 minutes, I want all of us to just, ideate about it. And you all should write about it as well. So we may not have time to hear everybody out. We're going to hear about like 4 or 5 people out. But basically what you can do, you have 2 options, okay? In these 10 minutes, you can extend the poetry that you already wrote about the object. You can build on it, or you can start a completely new poem about a different issue altogether. So that's up to you. So 10 minutes, all of us can, grab a snack, work on our poems, and we will be back at 48. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay, cool. You can take a 10-minute break and write maybe 4 to 6 lines. You can choose whether you want to continue the poem that you already wrote or you want to start something new. That's up to you. Some more quotes for inspiration and some more ideas for inspiration. So we'll be back at 12:48. Don't leave the meeting. Okay, so Bhavna is done. 3 more minutes, guys. Then we'll share our poems. And we may not be able to hear everyone out because we'll have to wind up quickly, but I like to hear as many as possible. So 3 minutes.
Should I send it right now or should I wait till 12:48?
No, wait till 10:48. We'll share together.
All right.
Okay, everyone, let's get back. Please switch on your cameras. I want to see all of you. Cameras, guys, please. I don't see people. Hold up. Okay, I see. Okay, I can see them now. Everyone else, please, cameras. Okay, you all can start sharing your poem on the. Okay, see it. We've already got some. Let's start. Please switch on your camera though. I'm getting sad. But let's start with Sirsha. Go ahead. Do you want to share your poem?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah. They made us realize, I call this the dance of democracy. I forgot the title.
You wrote on what? Sorry?
I call the poem, like I named the poem Dance of Democracy. I forgot to write the title.
That's okay. Got it.
Yeah. They made us realize that they wielded the power. They made us aware of how democracy is a blood-stained shard. How rights were just a good cover, promoting how functional a democracy is ours. It is truly on them whether we die or live. They decided whether we come out or retreat. They made us do the dance of democracy while all they did was advance towards autocracy.
I love this. I think this is an example of the kind of poetry we didn't explore today. I think it's like satirical, which is interesting because we didn't really do that today. So another thing I noticed is dance of democracy. What are there are two things here. What do you notice here? Two figures of speech. Anyone?
Personification. Oh, sorry.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Devansh. Go ahead.
Personification and metaphor.
Metaphor, that's a little tricky. There's another figure of speech that we didn't discuss today, which is like out of the 4 figures of speech we explored today, but it's still there. Does anyone know which one we're talking about?
Could you please repeat the sentence?
I didn't hear you. Could you repeat?
Could you please repeat the sentence?
Yeah, so in the phrase dance of democracy, there's another figure of speech that we didn't really, explore today in the 4 figures of speech we did today, but it's still there. Bhavna, do you know?
Alliteration.
Yeah. So alliteration, although we didn't do it today because it's not that important, but essentially it's where, the words that we use, the consonant sound is the same. So dance and democracy, DD. So that's great. Thank you so much, Sirsha. Does anyone have any thoughts on her poem?
I think it's wonderful.
And extremely, like typical for what's happening right now in India, but also like all over the world. We're living in a very, very bad state for democracies. So very much needed. Janvi, do you want to go ahead?
Can I say something for the democracy thing?
Of course.
I think no one really realizes how twisted our democracy is these days, because everyone thinks that democracy, the one we have, is like the most perfect form of what we can have, which is so not true. And
Not.
that there's so much we can improve, and there's so much we have changed from what it was supposed to be.
Exactly.
Can I counter that?
Go ahead.
So like she mentioned that democracy is not the perfect form, but like nobody really mentioned that it is the perfect form. Even in our textbooks, it's written that it's not the perfect form, but like it's the best form out of all the forms that we have. Like it's the lesser of the, of all the evils. So we can't really say that everybody is saying that it's the perfect form of government.
What I meant to say is that the reason why people don't talk about democracy in a bad way, like not in a bad way, but in a negative way, is because everyone thinks that there is nothing they can improve. Because that's what we have been told in our textbooks, as you said, that it's the best form of the government that we can have. But that is so not true, because it's not that democracy is bad, it's the thing that how we have put it into action is bad.
Definitely. I think, we have been somewhat it's just like we've been brainwashed to just accept the way things are. And I think it requires a lot of courage to demand change, because I feel like a lot of times people are just being really complacent and lazy. Like, yeah, we have wars. Let it just go on. I think that's the attitude a lot of people have nowadays. So I really like this poem. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's look at who's next. Janvi, do you want to share your poem? Go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so my poem, I have written a completely different poem now, and it is basically touching upon female feticide and sexism, and which is especially faced in the rural or the backward areas. So I'll start.
Go ahead.
I was a mistake, wasn't I? All your life, you wanted a boy. You tried to evacuate the air in me, even before I saw the light of the world around me. Oh, I was a mistake, wasn't I? Now I am then subject to your chains. I am a soldier captured in disdain. I wish to fight, I wish to rebel, but I was a mistake, wasn't I? Do the dishes, clean the sink. Education is for boys, marriage for you. Sending you off is the best we can do. Oh, I was a mistake, wasn't I?
I love this. Anyone wants to share their thoughts before I do? Because I have a lot to say, but I want you all to talk. Sirsha, go ahead.
Yeah, I think like this was honestly like a really good piece that I have like heard in a long time. Like it's like the simplicity of the words that you use, and yet the strongest of emotions that were portrayed. Like it was honestly like it was the best. And like the places where you just mentioned suicide, and then you mentioned the sexism that is present in our society, that is inherent in our society, to be very precise. So yeah, I really loved it.
No, totally. I agree. It's really good. And I also, again, appreciate, Devansh, I'll just get back to you. I also appreciate the use of rhyme scheme. Again, rhyme scheme is so difficult. I don't engage with it. So I always, if anyone uses it, I always make it a point to just point it out and applaud them. The chain and disdain thing. That's great. Devansh, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say that this poem brought us to the ground reality, and nowadays most of us don't think of this problem which was there in the past, and now it is right now in the rural areas, not in the urban areas. So this really brought us to the ground reality and told us to do something against it so that it stops immediately.
Right. Funnily enough, like recently I was a part of this program and we were talking about gender and data and about female feticide and how oftentimes, we have these commonsensical conclusions. So actually, the amount of female feticide in prosperous regions in India, in the Haryana, Punjab region, it's actually a lot. Because prosperous families, they'd rather just do the feticide, while poorer families that actually just like have more children, to, get a boy at the end. So that was a very interesting dynamic I noticed, that oftentimes we think that, developed people don't do, advanced people, modern people don't engage in activities like that, but oftentimes we're wrong. Our very definition of advancement is, subject to change. And India is such a diverse region. Of course, we're talking about India and we have people from like abroad as well. But just, I want to take a moment and just want us all to think about the preconceived notions we might have about regions and regional disparities and people who might engage in activities like this, and whether or not it's always accurate. So just think about it. So I'm going to hear one person out before we move on to like the conclusion part, because we're reaching 1 p.m. So I'm just going to see, Abdul has a shorter poem. Abdul, do you want to share your thing, please?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Turn on my camera.
Yeah.
Okay. Stage of hypocrisy. A white line appears on his face after delivering the speech of disgrace. Behind the curtains laughs the man with his opponent at innocent lamb's gullible heart. Who is guilty? One who fools or those who choose to be fools?
I love that. The last line is very hard hitting. Does anyone want to share their thoughts? I have a lot to say, but again, I will restrain myself.
I agree with you with the last line. It's so good. Like, just straight up delivers.
Exactly. And I think it's a really another example of how you need not, write a lot to, make an impactful poem. You can, say a lot with less words. And I think this is really important, because we're going to talk a lot about, criticizing leaders who, have, do bad politics. But at the end of the day, we are also electing the leaders in a democracy. So it is our onus to also educate ourselves and to figure out, how we're going to utilize our vote. So I think that's portrayed really well by Abdul's poem about the fools and the ones we're choosing to be fools at times, and but just blaming our leaders. So that's great. I love that. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how, people who didn't get the chance to share their poem right now, what we're going to do. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Cool. So that was great. Thank you so much for sharing your poems. And I love that most of you, started with a completely new thing. You didn't choose to be in your comfort zone and work with the poem that you already started off with, which is great. I admired that. So let's talk a little bit about next steps in your political poetry writing journey. Okay. First step, it's going to sound generic. You've heard this before from your elders, but I'm going to say it again. I don't care if you're annoyed, but it's true. You need to read. So today we analyze like a few poems, a few political poetry that I had chosen, which I enjoyed, but you need to read a lot more. Step number 2, you need to write. There is no other alternative. You have to make writing a schedule. If you really want to pursue writing and poetry as like a serious hobby, maybe even a career, you need to seriously, just abide by a schedule and do it every single day. I myself, I fall short of it. So I'm no one to, preach, but it's true. Number 3, seek feedback, join workshops, take courses, and invest in self-improvement. So you're already on level 3 right now, because you, as the person who, took responsibility over their self-improvement, signed up for a workshop, sought feedback from all of us. The way we were discussing everyone's poem, that's an integral component to writing. You have to show your writing to other people to understand whether your point, the point that you intended to bring across, is that coming? So the way we talked about poetry, that's you need to, engage in more activities like that. And there are many free creative writing courses like on Coursera, on Udemy, on edX, which you can engage in if you really want to, hear from professors, but free of cost. So that's something you can also consider. And number 4, submit your work to places. So for example, if you need some credibility, or if you need some legitimacy as to, your work, you can submit your work to places. And at the end of today's workshop, along with the certificates that we're going to be giving, we're also going to be giving a document of learning resources. So this will have some links to poems that we didn't have the time to discuss today. It will have links to magazines and competitions that you can submit your work to. It will have links to other resources and book recommendations and poetry recommendations that I think are important for the journey. So you all have a little help from that end, but do your own research as well. And number 5, at the cost of repetition, I'm sorry, I have to say it again. You need to write. So that's another thing. Please don't forget. Okay. Now, let me talk a little bit about, hold up. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Teenage Lens. So we're at the end of today's workshop, but I'll take 2 minutes of your time, okay? So it was, a lot of effort putting this workshop together. It was our first ever live event, and we hope to continue doing things like this. We hope to have your support as we move forward, right? Essentially, what we want to do is empower young people, empower students, college students, school students in engaging with socio-political issues. I started this organization back in grade 9 when I was 14 because I was incredibly tired that teenagers and young people were never taken seriously. They were always disregarded, like, you're too immature, you're too young. Those were the labels that were thrown at me, and I had to live by it. And I got tired. So I started this organization, and currently we are a team of 15 and we're thriving, we're doing good. Hopefully, we'll continue to do this over, the coming years. So you all can definitely, engage with us through our social media. Our Instagram page is where we're most active, and through our website we put up articles, we put up poetry, we have, workshops like this. We are planning something for the International Youth Day, for International Democracy Day. We have a lot of projects upcoming. So let's talk a little bit about the ways that you will continue to stay engaged with the Teenage Lens. So as I had said at the very beginning, the poetry that you all wrote. So what I'm going to do is that after the workshop ends, I'm going to be sending everyone a feedback form where they can tell me what you liked about the workshop, what I can improve. And along with the feedback form, there will be a place for submitting the poetry that you wrote in the workshop. So essentially what I want to do is that for, to remember today's workshop and to remember all the attendees who took out their time, I want to collect everybody's poetry and put it up as a collection on our website and just have everybody's amazing, amazing work together. So you all can submit the 2 poems that you wrote, 1 poem that you wrote. You'll have like a couple days to edit it, refine it, and then hopefully we'll have everyone's poem in one place up on our website for the world to see. Besides this, when you're going to be submitting, if we notice some exceptional work, we're also going to be offering positions at our team. So you can join us as a creative writing intern at the Teenage Lens. So it'll be a 3-month-long opportunity. Right now, we're looking at around 3 interns because, it's really hard managing a very large team. But if we see a lot of good work, we may increase the number to 5 interns. We'll see. But point is, we want you to engage with us, and we want this to be more than just a one-time event, right? We want to make this a prolonged commitment from your side and from our side, right? So submit your work and get opportunities to intern with us. So we'll be sending in the feedback form after this workshop, along with our certificates, which will take a couple days, and we'll send the learning resources immediately afterwards. So that was all from my side. I'm going to stop sharing. I know we're over time. So all the people who have some, some commitments can leave. But if you want to have a little bit of a chat, if you want to tell me your thoughts at the end, have a conversation, you all can stay. But most of you, if you have some commitments, you can leave. Thank you so much. I hope you all learned something and had some takeaway from this. If that is the case, then I was successful from my side, which is great. So if anyone wants to have a chat with me and wants to tell me some thoughts, anything, you can stay behind.
I'll just quickly state my thoughts because I have to leave somewhere.
Okay.
I think it was a great workshop. I really enjoyed it because I am mostly a person who doesn't write poems at all. And then before this, whatever poems I've written, it's all rhyming and everything. So I really enjoyed not following that particular rule and writing whatever. So it was really nice and I really liked it. And I hope to see more workshops from you. So yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I think as a poet, when you let go of the rhyme scheme, I think is when you become free of the chains that are holding you back. That's how I like to call it. But Devansh, go ahead.
So I loved the workshop.
Bye, Bhavna. Devansh, go ahead.
So I loved the workshop. It was interactive, and also I loved how, because actually I just write stories and poem is not my cup of tea. So what happened that I was so scared that if I write a poem but it turns into an essay, I'll be fully embarrassed. So, but I loved it, and now finally I can call myself as a writer
Oh my God,
or
yes.
poet.
Definitely. Another thing, Devansh, I'll talk to you about free verse. Free verse essentially is this form of poetry where there really are no hard and fast rules. You can write poetry that looks like an essay and you can still call it poetry. You can write poetry that doesn't rhyme. Like free verse is it's so liberating. You can do whatever you want with your poetry. So Devansh, yes, you're a writer, but you also don't have to be scared of following the rules. You can unfollow them at any time. That's totally okay. It's up to you.
Thank you, Ji.
Okay, thank you, Devansh. Pritika, go ahead.
Thank you, Devansh.
Bye, Devansh.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for this because this is like the first session in a long time where I've paid attention throughout the duration of the workshop. That does not happen a lot because I have a very short span of attention and I get distracted really easily. So thank you for that. And political poetry is like something I have not explored, even though I've been writing poetry for 4 years now. So this was a really enriching session for me. Thank you. And I would actually love to intern with the teenage lands because the vibe your platform has, it's like totally my kind of a vibe. So definitely.
Would love to have you on board. That sounds great. And I'm glad I could, capture your attention. I was worried that people would get bored with my lame jokes and whatever I said. But thank you for sticking around, Kritika. Love that. Okay. Janvi, do you want to go ahead? Share your thoughts?
Yes, first of all, I would thank you for organizing such a beautiful workshop. Earlier, I was skeptical because it was a 2-hour workshop and I was like, "Yaar, isme kaise hoga?" But then coming here and listening to you and interacting, basically this was a two-way conversation. That is what I enjoyed the most about this workshop. So kudos to you and the Teenage Lens for bringing about such a wonderful event and workshop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janvi. I'm glad you enjoyed. Sirsha, you can go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I was caught up in a meeting just before this, so I could not join on time. But I really wanted to because poetry and politics are two things that interest me the most. And I was really this was a really good workshop. I really loved the flow and, loved the activities that we did and the poems that we heard. Also, looking forward to more such workshops. And yeah.
That's great. Yeah, we're also planning to do something for in August and September. So we're all gonna all the registered people, we'll add them to the newsletter. So we'll keep you updated about what we're planning so that you can join us again. But great to hear, Sirsha. Prisha, go ahead.
Amazing session, Serena. I'm looking forward to more such workshops, and it was really great to know about other people and their creative writing. So and their thoughts. So it was really great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prisha. Fun fact, Prisha is a part of our team actually. She's a researcher. So thank you, Prisha. Danarine, go ahead.
Thank you for everyone to share their poems, and especially thank you for your Serena. Sorry. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Sorry. Also for my bit absence because in this part of the world, Peru, I am from Peru. It is 2 a.m.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's yeah. Don't worry. But I love this fusion of the poetry with the politics focus. I mean, it's interesting and contribute myself or to construct this career in this way in my future maybe, and take a lot for that opportunity.
Oh my God, thank you so much. You're joining at 2 a.m. Oh my God, the amount of commitment you have. Thank you so much, Janarine. I'm very flattered. I'm glad I could capture your attention. You can go sleep now, get some sleep. I'm so sorry for keeping you up. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. Anya, you can go ahead. Oh, also one sec, to answer Sirsha's question, we're based in New Delhi, but we have team members from Singapore, UK, Japan. So that's not a problem. Anya, go ahead.
So this is my first poetry workshop. I've never written poetry actually, but I've always been inspired by yours, you know that. And it was so nice to be in this environment. Everybody was just so positive and they were so welcoming and intellectual. And in fact, it was really nice to hear their thoughts and learn from them. So, and you know how proud I am of you. It's such a big thing to be organizing this at our age, and so yeah, it was very, very, very nice.
Thank you so much, Anya. Thank you for joining. Anya is one of my biggest supporters, guys. Well, thank you so much, Anya. Vishak, go ahead.
Okay, so Sheena, firstly, I love the way the whole session, the whole workshop was organized. I'm really looking forward to further workshops which are going to be conducted. At first, I was a little hesitant for joining this workshop because I don't really write poetry, but what really captivated my attention was how to incorporate poetry with politics. And I think you really did justice to that, and I really loved the whole session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vishak. I'm really flattered. Thank you, everyone. Most people have left by now, but thank you so much for sticking around till the end. You were a great, great team of people. I'm calling you my team because you interacted so much. You shared your poetry, and you all were great. So I'm looking forward to organizing more such events. And thank you so much for sticking around.